What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. It's your boy Devin Coates coming to you with a book application. So I haven't really done a review for The Laws of Human Nature. Obviously, if you watch any of my shit, you would know that I'm very into Robert Greene in general. But this is going to be about kind of the COVID crisis that's happening now in a particular chapter, and that's going to kind of be the format moving forward. But let me just get into this. So this is about the law of short-sightedness and elevating your perspective. It's on page 150 if you do have the book. There'll be a link in the description below where you can also just click on that, check it out. But basically, to kind of illustrate what it's about, he goes through a story about the South Sea stock, and this is kind of during the colonization period of America and the South America. So during that time, basically the French in around Mississippi, they're making a lot of money over the trade and basically free money that was here, because they're basically just taking resources that nobody really had to work to create. To kind of fast forward the story instead of getting into all of it, basically John Blunt saw what the French were doing. He was a businessman in England, and he basically used the debt from England and kind of off balanced it with the promise of trade in South America. And a lot of the speculation basically led to the stock rising and a lot of people wanting to invest, making him very rich and the English government very rich, since they were actually using what people were buying and investing in was the debt, and there was like some kind of interest payment. Basically, if you're from America, it was very similar to kind of how the housing crisis happened, that basically all these people are buying into something that's not really real. Long story short, it ends up crashing because once the stock started going down, everybody basically tried to cash out, and then it left anybody that was still at the table. If they bought their stocks for 100 euros, it would now be worth, or pounds, it would now be worth like 5 pounds. So you lost like 95% of the principal there. So that's the story there. I already kind of tied it to something that happened during my lifetime, the crash of '09, and then obviously the COVID crisis now. So obviously it's had strong economic impacts. I'm not really so much caught up into the medical aspect, as that's everywhere, and I'll kind of get into that in a second actually. But basically, with those things, the ways that these things happen are individuals making individual decisions. So John Blunt setting up that stock, obviously he had to understand that what goes up must come down. Another person that lost a lot of money in it was Isaac Newton. He's somebody that we would all say was a very smart guy. Obviously he should have seen that what goes up must go down. Kind of the same thing in '09, investing in those crashes. And then, a lot of people predicted a recession before this COVID crisis happening, that, things have been going, up, but they must come down. And then what causes these economic collapses, specifically with COVID, is that a lot of people are very scared now. So everybody's running, everybody's closing down, and a lot of people are getting laid off. And just being transparent, I was a person that was caught up in the midst of all of that. But a lot of the times the way that this is explained is as if it's like some kind of external force that's happening apart from individuals. All of this, as I said before, are individuals making individual decisions that are causing these global impacts, or in those other two cases, '09 and the South Sea stocks, those countries making an impact in those countries. But when you boil it down, you have to see that it's not an external thing, and you have an ability to make your own individual decisions and not just make the same short-sighted decisions of the people around you. And ultimately, this whole chapter is really about seeing past the present moment. That so many people get caught up in the present moment, that they don't really see past it, that this whole thing is going to pass, and where are you going to be when this ends? Same thing in '09. There's a lot of people that fell out the job market in that time. Maybe it got very emotional and they never entered back, and then now they get hit with another recession. What are those people going to do? But I digress. Let me kind of jump deeper into the book on how he kind of breaks it down, and then I'll apply it to this time. So Robert Greene basically names about 4 different pitfalls that you can fall into with this, and the main ones are, the first one is unintended consequences. So this is pretty simple, that when you're just thinking of things in the present moment, there's a lot of times that there will be unintended consequences for the things you do. I know, for example, in India, a lot of the wealthy people back in the day, there was a lot of cobras on the streets. So what they decided to do was this was in the book, I don't know if it was in this chapter, but basically what they decided to do was hire, they basically put some kind of ad out that was like, all of, anybody that brings, cobra heads will basically get some kind of stipend, and this was supposed to be a policy or kind of initiative that would reduce the amount of cobras. What people started to do was just breed the cobras and then kill cobras that they bred and then get money back. Once the government found that out, they stopped giving people a reward for bringing them. What all those people did was just leave the cobras in the street. So right there, that's an unintended consequence. Nobody really thought through the logistics of how that was actually going to work and what's going to happen. Looking in this time now, there's a lot of unintended consequences, like just thinking about simple statistics, like 67% of Americans can't avoid a $500 emergency. A $1,200 stimulus check is not going to be enough for most people for like more than 3 weeks. So a lot of these things, when you're looking past it, it's like there's huge ramifications in the future that you can be thinking of on how you can benefit, and unintended consequences of just shutting things down the way that we have so far. So the next one is tactical health. What this is all about is when you're getting into a lot of battles, but you don't seem like you're getting anywhere. This could be, in this day and age right now, like, getting on Facebook, arguing with people about where the fucking viruses come from, all these other things. People need to stay in the house. That's what all I see is like, how come you guys motherfuckers can't listen and things like that. But how is that really helping your situation? What were your long-term goals before COVID came that you were trying to go to? These battles are sucking energy, sucking time from you, but it's very short-sighted because at the end of it, you'll have nothing to show for it. Third one is the ticker tape fever. So this is kind of drawing a parallel to Wall Street, of that noise you hear when like the stocks are going up. But basically, a lot of people need immediate an immediate gratification of response. So even for me, I saw this a lot with this particular channel, that I put up a lot of videos, and it wasn't like I didn't feel like I was getting that many views, and then I would get discouraged, fall off, and it's happened many times. And then I looked back at it a couple weeks ago, and what I saw there were a bunch of videos that have hundreds of views, a couple that have thousands of views, that I didn't even know that was happening because I didn't get it immediately, and I kind of fell off. And one of the big feelings I had past that was like, if I could have saw towards the future that these ones that are getting 50 in a week, they're probably going to go up eventually, that I could have stayed on this, and it could be more than it is now if I didn't get attached to the ticker tape fever, and I was more just doing it the process for the process sake, and kind of taking it that way. The last one is just lost in trivia. It's just getting caught up in shit that's not going to improve your situation. One of the examples used in the book is during Queen Elizabeth's reign, there was a big beef with Spain, and essentially they were going to go to war. King Philip wanted to go to war with Queen Elizabeth, but he would get himself so caught up in minutia of like toilets in a palace, of what the guns are going to look like, what all this little stuff that's not really that important. And one of the things he overlooked was the weather reports, and that became the big reason why he lost, was that he basically sent a big fleet during a huge storm, and the storm destroyed most of the ships, and Queen Elizabeth didn't have to spend any money on the war, and then they just kind of went bankrupt. But basically, getting lost in trivial matters. If you lost your job, looking up how bad this COVID crisis is going to be, keep harping on, how long the shutdown is going to be, how bad the market is like, those are not beneficial thoughts. It's trivia, it's noise that's around you, but when you do get to the future, you're going to be in a deeper hole because you weren't having this far-sighted thought. And his solution to this is becoming the far-sighted human. and kind of taking this long-term perspective that, a lot of things take time to play out. You don't want to, one, you don't want to be, not taking action and just sitting around, but you don't want to jump to conclusions. You don't want to jump to full interpretations of things right away. If you have a setback, you don't need to, harp on it so negatively. It might be a positive, when you look 6 months down the road, because it sent you down another path. So having that type of perspective, and then also having a strong attachment to your long-term goals that are tied to your particular inclinations, which is something he talks about a lot in Mastery, but he does touch on in this book, that your environmental and biological circumstance, being what you got genetically and what environment, from the time period, from where you grew up and things of that sort, is completely unique. There will never be another one that's mixed together in that exact way. So there's certain inclinations and particular drives you have that would resonate with you from a kid, and sticking to that and using that to tie your long-term goals. And kind of tying this all, and that's really it for what he talked about. I'm going to make this a three-part series, kind of talking about COVID. So the first one is really just having that elevated perspective. The main takeaways I have from this is, one, it's gonna pass. Number two, it's gonna change things. Like, things are not gonna go back to 100% normal, at least anywhere in the next 18 months. Also, it's gonna have a lot of opportunity because, with everybody being locked in, doing things online, there's going to be new opportunities in terms of new businesses that come out of this, and a lot of old businesses that shut down for good because of this whole thing, and kind of keeping your perspective towards what you want to do in the end and how you can use this to benefit, and not just succumbing to the present moment and how other people are reacting. And I'll focus more on other people reacting because there is a chapter in this that he talks about that as well. But that's really it for this. Have that far-sighted perspective, tie it to long-term goals and your particular inclinations, and kind of move yourself beyond the present moment. It's really what makes humans, and our ability to create what we create. You can't build a building if you can't picture what it's going to look like 12 months down the line. And if you run into a problem in the beginning and get caught up in that, you'll never have the house built. So that's really it for this one. Like, comment, subscribe. If you like it, just do whatever. Links in the description below if you want to just kind of get it. This is the book. It's pretty big. If you want to test it out first, just get the Audible and listen to that. But it is, it's definitely over 15 hours. Until next time, peace.